And we are live. Welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel for another episode of the Friday night after the weigh-ins live stream. Joined once again, absolute beauty, Liam Picks Fights. How are we doing, my friend?
I'm doing wonderfully well today, my man. I'm excited. I know a lot of people are, sitting this card out from a betting perspective, but I like the slate I was able to put together. Couple spots got canceled here today, but still like the slate that I have lined up, and I'm excited to break down this card with you.
Well, it is Canadian Thanksgiving, and I would love nothing more than to say thanks to a bunch of money running into my bank account. So I know even though there's 9 fights on this one, I still have my fair share of action, still some money to be made. And you know what, man? Sometimes the weaker cards show lots of finishes, lots of action, lots of finishes, hopefully. So hopefully that pays off. For anyone watching this, I just released my DFS picks. So you can go see them there. I know Liam got his account activated, so hopefully soon he'll be on the DFS grind with me. Not the best card to start it off, but I know we'll have some fun down the road. But no, let's get right into it. 9 fights headlined by Dern versus Rodriguez. I know we're going to have some hot takes on a somewhat special card here, and let's get it started. We have 11-7 Charlie Ontiveros versus 11-4 Steve Garcia, and this is one where I just have those images in my mind of Ontiveros being slammed down to the ground by Kevin Holland, that verbal submission and a lot of stuff. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't really do tape for that fight. So I'm like, oh, what a coincidence. But he's had verbal submissions before. Seems like is a killer to be killed fighter. Introducing guy Garcia, who's not the best fighter either, in my opinion, but it looks like a fight that he could easily win here against Ontiveros. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think technically speaking, this is probably my largest exposure on the card. I'm in for Garcia's money line here at minus 310. A pretty decent bet, 3.5 units. And then I also have, a couple shares of the inside the distance and the KO line, both at slight chalk. And the reason that I took those bets is, a lot of what you mentioned, Charlie Ontiveros, with all due respect, he's had a lot of injuries in his fights. He's asked the referee to stop the fight before, a few times that I saw on tape, sometimes against like name guys that you've heard of. And for those reasons, maybe it's more understandable. And other times against like Texas regional scene fighters without much acclaim. So I do think that, in all likelihood, Charlie Ontiveros is not a UFC caliber fighter. He stepped in on short notice, I believe, for that Holland fight. He was a massive betting underdog that night. And granted, he's dropping 2 weight classes here, but, that's almost a concern for me. He was a career welterweight, and now he's dropping down to the lightweight division. So, I don't want to question his commitment, certainly. But, if you have problems with your chin, with your durability, taking shots, dealing with injuries, depleting your body of nutrients and water seems like a really bad idea. So, I think that it's probably not advisable, all things considered, to drop down to 155 pounds if those are the concerns you're dealing with. And, maybe the UFC is going to give him a somewhat soft landing here. In Steve Garcia, he's not the biggest 155er. So I think they're trying to give Ontiveros, some chance to work his way into a fight. I just don't think he's a UFC caliber fighter. I think Steve Garcia, for all his other faults, he's grown into a UFC lightweight, maybe on the smaller end, but I think he's probably, better suited for this division at this time. I think he's probably going to be able to match the speed of Ontiveros, and I think that his punching mechanics are a little bit better, a little bit cleaner for the sake of landing that kill shot in this kind of matchup. And, for all those reasons, I think it's probably going to play out on the feet. I don't think it goes very long. I'm looking at, I have about 5 units of exposure on this fight, but
Wow.
I'm considering adding to the under 2.5 rounds as a bit of a hedge play, because Ontiveros' path to victory is probably a standing knockout in this fight. He's never really shown much of a ground game. He's been pretty susceptible on the ground. Oftentimes that's where he gives up, is if he gets taken down and somebody starts trying to pass. If you're trying to think of an image in your mind of what we're talking about, think Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington, good example. Think Anthony Pettis, and who was that was on his back when he gave up? Was that Chiesa, or who was that? What was that fight? Anthony
Which
Pettis
one?
separating. Oh, it was Dustin Poirier, actually. When he separates his ribs, he gives up. So those are, the images in your mind. Those are like really credible injuries after back and forth wars, Whereas I'm not trying to question the Ontiveros injuries, but like what's leading to them isn't necessarily this back and forth war every time. Sometimes it's just him getting completely steamrolled. So I do think that he's probably just not a UFC quality fighter. And, I'm willing to take my risk with Steve Garcia, whom I think, looked bad in his last fight against a style that he's not going to be facing here at all. And I think that he has the grappling upside in this matchup, if anybody does. So, for all those reasons, I'm going to go ahead and back Steve Garcia to win the fight. I'm probably going to back him to win this in the first round by knockout.
See, I have no action on this one yet, and that's kind of stunned me when I look back on my plays, just because there's so many things going for Garcia here. It looks like a setup fight, in all honesty. Ontiveros has very, very susceptible skills. I don't think he should be here. I mean, if it wasn't for that late notice opportunity, I don't think he is here. I think he loses on Contender Series. But if you look at the way he fights, I mean, he's got 18 fights, only 4 of them gone to decision. It's just a fight where it looks like Garcia should be able to finish. I mean, he has been in the cage with a lot better competition too, in my opinion. I mean, he's a win over Ronnie Lawrence over there in Bellator.
Only time he's ever boy, Ronnie Lawrence.
I do love me some Ronnie Lawrence.
Garcia. Yep.
Yeah. His only time he was.
I was trying to Ricky Bandejas too. He fought him to a split.
Oh, Ricky Tercios. Yeah.
Or Tercios, yeah, exactly. Bandejas. Yes. Jesus Christ, Liam.
Yeah, that was back in 2016 before he was the Ultimate Fighter too. So, I mean, the only time Garcia has ever been finished was by Elon Cruz, and that was a choke, which we all know that Ontiveros isn't going to do. So it's not like we have any durability issues on here. It seems like the right side is going to be Garcia to finish around minus 135, and I'm very, very tempted. You know me. I'm probably going to parlay them with the Vikings by the end of the week. A nice little game there against the Lions. So we'll see how that goes. No action of me as of yet, but I'm going to predict that Garcia gets this done inside the 3 rounds. I'm not going to get cute with it. I'm not going to pick a method. I'm just going to pick inside the distance, and I'm waiting to pull the trigger. Nothing yet from me. I would really like to do that, though. Other hand, DraftKings, though, there's your spot right there. Should finish this fight. Lots of opportunities, too. And with such a small slate, there's no one really that expensive. So you're able to go up there. You're able to get your guys like Steve Garcia. I think he gets it done. I think he steamrolls Ontiveros tonight. Or tomorrow night. Sorry. Wow. I'm getting too early. I mean, I'm so excited for this stacked card. Thinking a day ahead. All right, moving right along. Lupita Godinez facing short notice replacement Silvana Gomez Juarez. And I'll tell you right now for a fact, I have not done my due diligence and tape on Juarez. That is my mistake. So I'm going to let you take over. What are your thoughts on this fight right here?
Man, I also wanted to do more tape on the Juarez side, but to be fair, I listened to some opinions I trust. They said that Juarez isn't very good, and then I saw what was happening to the line on Juarez. Now, unfortunately, guys, I locked this bet in when I was very tired, so I got minus 250 on Lupi Godinez. I went to sleep. I wake up in the morning. She's minus 270 on every book. So my opportunity to track the play was gone. I will end up tracking it if the line comes back down, but I don't want to, I don't need another balloon on betmma.tips when I have a balloon for my Charles Rosa at plus 175 bet when he was hanging at that price for a significant portion of time after. So, sometimes the balloons don't make sense anyway, but, that was what I was thinking. I'm trying to be fair and show that integrity, but yeah, man, I'm in for 2.5 units on the Lupi Godinez side. Because, I do think she kind of got robbed in her last fight. She was the one that was here preparing for, this opportunity. I know that the other girl was training for a Contender Series fight, but I think that that's different stakes. A lot of people have a happy to be here attitude in the UFC. She's 36 years old, are the championship aspirations there? Maybe. But, I think that backing the younger fighter who is training for this specific opportunity, who's got a lot of physical advantages and who frankly from everything I remember on tape, is pretty solid in most positions. She kind of got out-savvied a little bit by Jessica Panay in a fight where she also, executed like overhead power bombs and, kind of threw her in ways that you just don't see people get thrown. And Jessica Panay has a very weird and awkward style where she's like trying to clinch you at all times. And, I don't know that that's the fight we're going to expect here. I think that there's, a willingness to strike on the Juarez side from everything I've heard. And I do think that Lupi is a pretty powerful puncher. I know that she doesn't, have the knockouts to back it up, but I see her hurt girls when I watch the tape and back them up and sting them. And, I was impressed by her running Invicta, honestly, before she got to the UFC. So I think that she's probably the side here. Younger, fresher fighter. And, I might get in on tracking that as well if the line comes down, but I'm not sure that I expect it to. I think the odds makers opened this up at like minus 600 or something.
Oh, yeah, crazy.
It quickly got bet down. But, I think that the resistance has been strong around that minus 300 number. So, I don't know that she's going to creep much below, that minus 275 on the retail books moving forward. But we'll have to wait and see how these lines play out. We still got 18, 20 or so hours until fight time. So let's let it play.
I do agree. I do think that Lupita is better everywhere here. You look at someone as in Juarez, who just hasn't fought the greatest level of competition. I mean, well, she has fought Lipsky and Botello, and we'll give her that. But I mean, her wins recently over 4 and 6 fighters, 4 and 3 fighters over on the regional scene, not too impressive. Nothing that I see there really stands out to me. It says I want to bet her as an underdog. And I do think that Godinez impressed me her last time out. I do think she won the last time, kind of taken away from her. And I do think she wins here again. The problem with her is, I mentioned it in my video today, I'm going to have a lot of exposure with her on DraftKings just because she puts out the volume. She's going to be a cheap price tag, and I don't like many dogs this week, so I need that cheaper price tag away from the Romanovs up top. So I don't know if I want to have too much exposure on that. I was looking at her to win by decision. If I got plus money, I did not get plus money, so I'm off of that as well. I do think Juarez is pretty tough. Then again, big step up in competition, in my opinion. So I'm going to pick Godinez. No plays yet. Again, if I was looking as a parlay piece, I do think that she is going to exceed her price tag. I do think she wins pretty convincingly. I just don't know if I want to parlay Godinez, especially against someone who I haven't really looked at enough. So no plays for me. I appreciate the breakdown because I did not do my due diligence on that one. I completely passed. That's fine. Because
I gave you the half-ass breakdown, which was I rate this one chick. I don't know anything about this other chick except that people I respect have told me she's not very good.
Yeah, I was tuning into your show yesterday. I completely agree with that. But I mean, I do think Godinez rolls here. I'll have some exposure in DraftKings. Don't know how much I'm going to get. I don't know if I'm going to get there on the betting line. So let's just see how it plays out. So I do respect your play. I think it's good. If any more money comes in, probably will stay off of it. But if I still see that minus 250, minus 260 laying around here tomorrow, when I need some parlay pieces for my NFL action, you know where I'm going to go. By the way, she was competing to fight on Contender Series. Did you see that there's going to be a 40-year-old man on Contender Series?
I did not. Very nice.
Who's
that?
Yeah, so I think it's coming up in a couple of weeks. I forget his name completely, but you were mentioning the 36-year-old fighter, seeing if there's any title aspirations. And I'm like, wow, if you're going to Contender Series at 40 years old, man.
Well, they'll bring you to the Contender Series, but are they going to sign him?
That's we'll see. Anyway, speaking of Contender Series, everyone make sure you're checking out Liam's channel every Tuesday. We've been killing it. Got all 5 fights right on Tuesday. We swept it. So make sure you're checking out his channel on Tuesday. Made a lot of money, and we're going to spend it all tomorrow. All right, moving right along. Charles Rosa versus Damon Jackson. Charles Rosa is 14-5. Damon Jackson is 18-4-1. Damon Jackson has had an interesting experience in the UFC. That fight with Bektik was pretty good. So many different chances to get him out of there, and he finally does. Showed a lot of resiliency. And then he goes out there and he gets absolutely – well, he just gets Ilia Topuria. And he gets knocked out early, and he gets destroyed. And now he's in here against a guy in Charles Rosa, who, I mean, hasn't had the best luck either. I mean, he was smothered in his 2 losses to Minner and to Bryce Mitchell. But he's faced some weaker level competition, and he's powered through. I mean, he beat Aguilar, he beat James. Where do you stand on this one? That's my question, because I see a lot of dog money on Rosa, and I haven't pulled it yet, and I'm really debating taking the shot on Rosa here.
Man, I think that This is an interesting fight. A lot of people criticize Charles Rosa. A lot of people, I said it on my show this week. I feel like Charles Rosa is public enemy number one, and I don't know why exactly. I get that he's cost people money in the past, probably in that Derek Minner fight in particular, and I get that you know he hasn't always shown a you know we like to see people anxious to get up. We like to see people who are active constantly off their back and getting up to their feet and cage walking and doing all the right things. We like to see that. But I also, I do like to give these guys the benefit of the doubt in that they're human beings. And so I try to at least understand what happened, why. And I listened to his interviews after that fight, and he said, I have dealt with back injuries my whole career. And so I needed to work on that. I needed to deal with that because, I have not been going to wrestling practice. And like, I had just decided that that was what I needed to do for myself to like keep doing the sport and keep training and everything. And he's like, so I stopped wrestling and it was starting to show in my fights and I was paying the price for it. And then he's like, now I've been wrestling again. And I thought his wrestling looked improved in the Justin James fight. Say what you will about Justin James, a bum and this and that. I don't think that talk's necessarily fair. Not to say that he's the world's best fighter, but he's got a couple skills. He's got good power punching. He's hurt even better fighters than Rosa. And I don't know that he like badly hurt Charles at any point in that fight where Charles was like on the verge of giving up or anything like that. Charles has been historically quite durable. Exchanged quite a bit with Shane Burgos before he got finished in that fight, and had some success, in that fight as well, striking at range, finding his punches. And he's got a weird style. He's got layered striking. He switches stances through combination. He kicks people in the calf, inside and outside. He brings kicks to the head and the body. And I do think that Charles presents the more tricky puzzle to solve on the feet. With that being said, Damon Jackson, he's got that length. He's got the reach. He's a big, tall guy. He's big for the division. So there's some things to like on the Damon Jackson side. I think if you played Damon Jackson at the opener, if you played Damon Jackson at, minus 140, minus 130, I see all that. But as the Charles Rosa line was touching plus 175, and it's currently plus 170 best market price, but it was at plus 175 on Bet Online for a time. And, I just don't buy that necessarily. I think that, Charles Rosa, again, people hate on his black belt. They say he shouldn't be a black belt. I get the criticism. His jiu-jitsu hasn't always been effective, but, he's proven that he can pull off submissions in the octagon. Dismissed Manny Bermudez, sent him packing from the organization in that one. And, he's shown jiu-jitsu prowess in ways that, most people don't get out of that Bryce Mitchell sub attempt. Most people don't. And he has tremendous submission defense. So Damon Jackson, who ended up needing a third round submission to win the fight he did win in the UFC, he's 1-4 in the UFC. He's faced a pretty stiff level of competition, but Charles has been around. He's been winning fights in this organization for a while. And, not at the highest level of the division, I'll grant that, but he's been fighting pretty tough guys too. In the fights that he loses, by and large, it's people that are ranked in the top 15 still today. So, getting smoked by Ilya Topuria, I'm not going to hold that against anybody because most people would. But I just think that Damon Jackson, he's got some durability concerns. I don't buy the narrative that he's a better grappler than Charles Rosa in every position. I think that Charles Rosa could still pull something out of the bag of tricks. I think that Charles Rosa has been moving a little better in his more recent fights. I actually think that whatever he's been doing with his back has helped him a little bit to loosen up, because he's a little bit awkward. He stands like he's got a ruler on his back sometimes, and he's like rigidly throwing the kicks. But, I think that when Charles is a little looser and when he opens up, I think he is going to look like the better striker. He might look like the more comfortable guy in the octagon. And, if he's able to stuff some of these takedowns and or counter wrestle, which I don't think is out of the question. He's got to make a conscious decision to do it. He doesn't always, but I think his fight IQ is there enough to know that if Damon Jackson gets him down for the round, he's going to be losing rounds. And I think he's a self-aware guy in that he's given away a few fights in the UFC already. And at 34 years of age, if he's making a run, it's now. So I don't think that Charles is going to continue to make those same mistakes. I think he's going to beat Damon Jackson this weekend. But I also can see the argument for Damon Jackson. I get why people like him here. I get the argument that he's been undervalued by the market in the past. But I'm going to go ahead and side with my guy in the spot. I think he's got a better chance of winning. I like Charles Rosa here. I think he's got a better chance of winning than plus 175. Excuse me.
Perfect. Well, I'll keep this really simple for you then. Damon Jackson has won 13 of his fights by submission. And that is the main way he wins his fights. And I do not think he submits Charles Rosa. And that's exactly how I'm going to go. I think when it comes down to striking, athleticism, durability, you all got to give that to Rosa. I think that if Rosa comes out there, performs the way he does recently, if he has been improving like he says he has, he's also the better wrestler. I'm not going to say that he's a better offensive grappler than the Leech, but I'm going to say that he's able to hold his own. It's not like this huge skill discrepancy. We know how tough Rosa is. I don't think he's going to get choked out there. So it's to the point where, what other path to victory do I see? If I'm betting Jackson, am I depending on a submission, or like what am I banking on here, right? So it's just tough for me. I think that
the Derek Minner fight to play out again. That's the argument.
I do not think that Damon Jackson is as good as a wrestler as Derek Minner is, and
I agree with you, and we seem like we're outliers in that opinion, but I agree with you. I think Derek Minner is systemically underrated, but also he did death gas against Darren Elkins and bring tears to my eyes because I thought we were past that. But
well, here's the thing:
he's got plus level skills. That's all I'll say.
Yes, he does. Well, I can't get anything better than 150, plus 150. Sorry, and I'm waiting. I said it in my video. If you guys checked out my DFS video that I just posted, I'm on Rosa this week. I mean, I don't think he should be an underdog as much as he is now. And I'm more than happy to take my plus money because I think he has more tools to win this fight. And that's all I'm going to say. It's a simple fight. He has more tools to win. Don't see him being subbed. And I think he gets it done. I don't know how yet. Probably a decision win. But I will be having my money.
Yeah, that would be the Charles Rosa way. But hopefully he pulls something out here that advances him in this division. The only thing I will say is Charles is a little sneaky. Like, nobody rates his power at all because he's not the biggest puncher. But he can kick people in the face, and he's done it a bunch of times. He kind of hurt Omar Morales more than once with those kicks in the face. So just something to keep in the back of your mind.
And then you look at Damon Jackson, who has those chin issues, who has been finished multiple times.
Now, granted, the guys that finished Damon Jackson so far have basically been pretty damn good strikers that, like, just caught him or, like, tore him apart like Ilya.
Yeah.
And he took a lot of damage in that fight. Like, he didn't just fold up shop early.
What I will give Damon Jackson, though, is you look at his losses, right? Ilya Taporia knocked out first round. Okay. Don't hold that over him. Gets flying kneed by Movlid Kalibuyev in PFL. Sure. Give him that. Lost to Kevin Aguilar.
Probably on all the sauce, if we're taking guesses.
Yeah. Kevin Aguilar knocked out round 3. Aguilar's in the UFC. Give him that. And then he was choked out by Yancy Medeiros in 2014. So he hasn't lost any scrubs. I'm going to say that. Everyone he's lost to is UFC caliber, some more than others. But I just don't think he has the same tools that he's won. I mean, then you look at the guys he has wins over, and I don't think that they line up to the same ability as Charles Rosa either. I mean, good for you in that Bektik win. I'm not going to say much about that fight. It's on Bektik for giving it up at the end there. It was a good fought battle though. So he fought as an underdog, and that's where I like Damon Jackson. I like him to be an underdog, and he's not here, and I think he should be. So I'm going to take the dog in Charles Rosa.
I'm right there with you. And I backed Rosa as a favorite against Justin James and felt just a touch sketchy about it. But at this underdog tag, I'm willing to go back to the well and only 0.75 units. I'm not going out over my skis. Charles has let me down before, but I actually think that he's just a better fighter than the market value implies here. I think this is a little bit closer to 60-40.
Me too. And honestly, I hope I can get some better books because plus 150 is good, but I'd rather have that plus 170 and plus 175 like you got right there. All right, moving on to the people's main event. This is a fight that honestly, it's going to be pretty entertaining while it lasts. Alexander Romanov, 14-0. 14-0 against Jared Vanderaa, 12-5. Jared Vanderaa, the Mountain, Dana White Contender Series vet. Lasted a full 15 minutes, had a good striking affair, but has been dominating on the ground versus the guy who wants you to the ground. The guy with a controversial win over Juan Espino. Guilty as charged.
Someone say the bullshit win.
I had a win. I had a bet on Romanov, so I'm not going to complain too much.
Yeah, you're like, no, it was a great win. It was a fair win. No, it was a just win. No, I'm kidding.
It was. Anyways, we're not talking about that. This is a fight where I have some action on, and I have 2 units on this. But it's not the easy play. I'm not going with. Actually, I'm gonna have over 2 units of exposure on this one. I'm gonna let you kick it off first, and I'll tell you where I'm standing. What are your thoughts on this one?
So I don't have any tracked bets on this fight. Let me go double check and make sure that that's true. Because I know I considered, the TKO prop, but yeah, I didn't end up getting to the window with that. So yeah, nothing on this fight for me. Romanov will be in some of my long shots at minus 400. Not the prices that he's at now, or minus 450.
Is he minus 1,000 now? Some places.
I hope
minus 700. Minus 700.
Dude.
Oh my god.
Are you serious?
Okay. Yeah, minus 700, minus 833 on Bet365.
That means he's in every parlay on Bet365.
All right, carry
on. Yeah, I think that, the line movement doesn't really surprise me. I think everybody kind of got burnt by Romanov a little bit last time, but I don't think that they're completely off the train. And I do think that, I'm a little bit surprised because, his most recent performance, Jared Vanderaa, looked good. So normally the public would take that into account. But, granted, look good against who? And probably somebody on a different track in the division. So, I do think this is probably an uphill battle for Jared Vanderaa. We've seen him succumb to pressure from top games like Sergey Spivak before. And I don't think Sergey necessarily has the same submission credentials. Maybe he does. It's probably comparable. But I think that in all likelihood, we're going to see Romanov get him to the ground and stick him there. Am I confident enough to lay that he's going to do it inside the distance? No. Because I do think Jared's a pretty tough guy and might get back up a handful of times. And I just think then the fight could get so greasy if he does. But, it could be a 1 takedown, 1 sub, and it's all over like a minute later type deal. That would not surprise me at all either. One of the things I really like about Romanov's game is that he takes people down right into dominant positions most of the time that he pursues takedowns. So, he goes slam to side control, and that's pretty hard to deal with because he doesn't have to pass. He just has to find a finish from there. And against those bigger guys, it's a little bit easier to do so. He's got a massive frame in the division. So I kind of expect Romanov to roll here, but not willing to lay it at the price. I think it's kind of gotten out of hand. For a heavyweight fight, heavyweight fights just have a lot more variance.
All right. Well, here's my thoughts on this one. Romanov has all the tools to win this fight in the first 10 seconds. All right. He is getting exactly what he wants in a guy who it can be dominated on the ground. That's how Romanov wins fights. He takes people down and he tries to finish them in the first 2 rounds. And he's good at what he does. I mean, he's got great takedowns, like you said, great job at advancing position, and he finishes fights. That's good on him. The problem with him is he showed a problem with his gas tank. So I will be playing Romanov in all my DraftKings lineups, most of my DraftKings lineups, because he probably will finish this fight relatively early. The problem I have is if Vanderaa is as tough as we've seen him be recently, there's a good chance that he is able to survive. And then what happens? A gassed off Romanov. Vandera ends up on top. I think Vandera has underrated ground and pound. I think he has insane ground and pound. So I've targeted this fight 2 ways. Number one, I got 2 units as a parlay piece of the fight not going to decision. I do not think it's going to decision. I think either Romanov puts him out there early, and if Vandera is able to survive the U position in a round 3 can reverse position, we've seen Romanov give up, even though he didn't really give up the L. I mean, he gave up in that fight where he got kicked. If Vandera is on top in the 3rd round when Romanov is gassed, mark my words, Vandera will finish the fight. And I'm not banking on it, but I will put 0.3 units on Vandera to win inside the distance at plus 1,000. And that is the other way I've targeted that. It's just because Romanov gasses, and I think Romanov has all the skills to pay the bills. Just Vandera is really tough. So, in all honesty, if Romanov wins a decision, oh well, there goes my bets. I just don't think he will. I think he's going for that finish. He's going to expend all his energy. It's either going to go his way or it's not. Simple as that. So I just hope this fight finishes. And then for my DraftKings lineup sake, I hope Romanov gets it done. Am I crazy for that one, or what do you think?
Let's hope they don't watch that main event from last weekend and just start peppering each other with low kicks from the outside.
Oh, no way, man. No. That's one thing I'll give Romanov, though, is he knows what he has to do, and he's pretty good at it.
Absolutely.
I do think that Vandera is missing a few brain cells. I don't know if you watched his Dana White Contender Series interview, but that was one of the points that my roommates quote all the time. He says something about not being too good looking, but he can throw punches or something like that. I mean, I agree with him. Anyways, I think that this is a pretty binary fight. Romanov early, Vandera versus a gassed man. I don't think Vandera's that good of a fighter at all, but he's tough. He's big. Kind of strong. So I don't know. Romanov early, Vandera right. I don't care. Let it finish, please. All right, moving right along. Chris Gutierrez against Felipe Colares. 16-3-2 for Chris Gutierrez and 10-2 for Felipe Colares. And here is my logic on this one. You have a guy who likes to keep it at range, a rangy kickboxer, great kicks, great versatility, great output, versus a guy, Colares, who gets hit all the time. And I only have 1 unit on this play, and it was a parlay I made on Tuesday with you, so I'm pretty sure I already know what it is. But I put it out there. I was betting on the main event. Why is that? Oh, Mike Malott to finish the fight, which he did right away. And I parlayed that with Chris Gutierrez this weekend. So I have plus 116 on Chris Gutierrez this weekend, 1 unit, and I think he gets it done quite easily. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm a little bit concerned that he might drop the first round. I think Colares is probably going to be, coming forward with reckless abandon to try and get through the kicking range and also to try and get his hands on him for a takedown. And we have seen that Gutierrez can be taken down. I respect his defensive. I'm trying to think of the right word for it. Security, positioning. He's always got his hands in the right place. He's very disciplined, but he's not the most aggressive in his desire to escape. Sometimes he just hangs out and he's like, all right, I better not let anything bad happen. And that's effective for not getting submitted. But what it's a little less effective for is, no, stop, please. What it's not as effective for is, oh, goodness gracious, I completely lost my train of thought, buddy. What were you saying? I'm so sorry.
No, you're just going on with the thought of his style's not as effective versus someone. I was assuming you were going to say someone like Gutierrez who can keep up pumping that from range. Oh, no, you were talking about Gutierrez as takedown defense and submission defense. So he's able to block those chokes, but it's not so good for position.
Basically, he's good at He's good at defending. He's not as good at getting out of the positions, and that's a easy way to lose rounds. That's why I think laying the money line on Gutierrez is a little tough for me at the price. At the price you got, I totally get it. If you're sitting on 1 unit at plus 116, you're gravy. He's minus 200 odd going into the fight. But I do think if you're sitting with the minus 250, right now, it could look a little greasy. I don't want my minus 250 to lose the first round. You know what I'm saying? Like I want my minus 250s to be running the show, to be dictating what's happening. And we've just seen Chris Gutierrez, despite his skills, sometimes get put in those vulnerable positions. And that's something that's a little bit concerning for me. That being said, I do have some action on this fight, which is that I have
There we go.
Gutierrez by KO or TKO 0.3 units at plus 380. And I have 0.2 units on Gutierrez to win in round 3 at plus 1400. And the reason I targeted the fight this way is because, I do expect him to probably lose his first round, at least have a competitive first round. Kolaris will probably be all up in his face. It'll be a little uncomfortable for him. But I think that over time, his attritional damage starts to add up. He'll touch the body, he'll touch the legs, and he will start jabbing you, hitting you with straight punches. And he also can get a little creative. He can go high with the kicks, he can spin. And I think that Gutierrez is probably going to be chopping him down at range, keeping him back as the fight goes on, maintaining that kicking range and distance. And if he's able to do that, I think that, the amount of damage that Kolaris is normally taking in his fights, I don't know that that's sustainable against somebody like Chris. So, I'm only in for 0.5 units of exposure, but I like the way I targeted this. If it's a third round knockout for Chris, we're going Sizzler.
There you go, man. And honestly, you have to give credit for Kolaris. He is a tough guy. So I don't think he's getting put out there in the first 2 rounds. Look at the getting starched, but you're right. Gutierrez puts out volume, and he is he's a very smart striker with what he does as well. I think he knows if he's going to win this fight, he's going to have to target all parts of the body. And Kolaris gets hit like crazy. So if you're going to get hit like crazy, better not do it against Gutierrez because that man is dangerous. Yeah, like I said, got Gutierrez there. Not going to overthink it. I mean, I think if Kolaris does win this fight, he does score big on DraftKings, so it's going to be one of those weird ones for me because I'm all over Gutierrez to win. But under the slight chance that Kolaris does win, he's getting takedowns, he's getting control time. The submission is not off the table. It's not likely, but I mean, I think that if Kolaris wins, he scores pretty good. But I'm not going to be playing that much. All over Gutierrez here, and let's move right along. All right, this might hurt a few people if we're talking about long shot parlays, but Maria Agapova, the former minus 1,600 favorite against Sabina Mazo, the girl who just lost to Alexa Davis, 9-2. This is a weird one. This is a really, 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 really weird one. Agapova showed that she's not invincible, that she can be gassed out, and she can lose fights. And Mazo showed that she's not as elite as people thought she was. She got a vet experience her last time out. I don't know what to think of this one. I think that Agapova has all the tools to win this one. I think that people are overreacting on the fact that she lost last time out. It's a huge, huge change. You don't see anyone go from minus 1,600 to plus 140, plus 150 like this. And I'm just waiting for it to keep going. I have no play yet, but if it hits plus 150, 155, I know it is plus 50 somewhere. I just don't have it in my book. I will be taking the shot on Marina Agapova. What are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, Gordo, I don't have these bets tracked yet, but I do have 0.2 units of exposure on this fight, which is 0.1 units Maria Agapova to win in round 1, and 0.1 unit Maria Agapova round 1 sub. And that's plus 1,000 and plus 2,100 respectively. And
there you go.
The reason I targeted the fight this way is I do think that I don't like to see a fighter have a significant cardio dump. I recognize that it was more than likely just adrenaline. I get that. But it's also something where, I just want to see a clean, 15-minute type performance from her before I want to reinvest, at a favorite price. Especially now at dog odds, I can see why people would be intrigued. I think that a lot of what's baked into this line is narrative. But I really don't know what to make of this narrative. If you heard the interviews and everything like that, I'm talking about the interviews from her old teammates, Maria Agapova. She got kicked out of her old gym.
Yep.
They said that she would show up on drugs and threaten people with knives and she's an aggressive chick, and I think she's really dangerous in the first round. But I also think she is live to like spend herself in the first round. You know, she kind of likes to go all out and try and finish somebody. And maybe she'll have slowed down a little bit here. And if so, I'm probably going to lose my bets. And you know, that's why I'm not getting overexposed. I'm not, taking a big shot on this fight. But 0.2 units on the girl who goes crazy in the first round and actually has some finishing upside. Against a girl who's been control grappled a little bit now. Granted by better fighters that have proven more, but been control grappled a little bit. I think it's at least an interesting enough spot. She gives up bad positions. Agapova's really aggressive. That could be all it takes. And at plus 2,100, keeping my exposure small and my risk to reward ratio in a realm that I can stomach. I'm not going to get a big bet on Agapova here, but I think she's got propensity to get this done early, and I'll take the wide odds on it.
Well, I mean, it's not often we see someone like Agapova in women's MMA who does get as many finishes as she does. She is a lethal, lethal fighter. And I'll tell you right now, Dion, I know you, man. She will stab you. But I know if you want to make money this weekend, a big long shot is her to finish because she's not only an underdog, but I mean, you can get some good plus money. I think a good way of her to finish is by sub the way you targeted. But it is a really sketchy fight, Dion, because it's one of these ones where we don't know much about Agapova. We know she's a potent first-round finisher, and then she had a cardio dump her last time out, and now everyone's fading her. I think if she wins her last fight, she might as well be a minus 300 favorite here. I mean, I think that is a huge overreaction by the market, in my opinion. Granted, if Mazo beats Davis last time out, she could be an even bigger favorite here as well. It's all recency bias in the line, apparently. I have no idea how I want to target this. I think that Agapova is a sneaky play on DraftKings as well because she does have that finish upside that a lot of people in women's MMA do not have. Hopefully, we see Agapova go out there and have reinvented cardio. Not for your bet, but for future bets on Agapova. And I do think she is going to try her. I've heard reports of her trying to improve herself, which everyone's going to say. And if that is the case, if she does improve that cardio, I think she is way more skilled than Mazo here. So I'm tempted on Agapova. No play yet. Like I said, give me that plus 155, give me that plus 160. I'll be more than happy.
She's actually been training the most recently with Charles Rosa.
Oh, we know how much we love Charles Rosa.
Yes, sir. Hey, although we don't always love that practice room work ethic from Charles. So, Charles, don't be hanging out with them girls unless they're making you work hard. You hear me?
Yeah, don't skip wrestling practice, Charles Rosa. We need you, man.
Can I just make a brief note on this fight, though, my man? Agapova to win by submission is available for plus 900 on DraftKings. And on the sharpest books, it's plus 675.
That's a good shout, man.
In terms of her to win by knockout, Agapova by KO, plus 750 on FanDuel and DraftKings right now. She is plus 600 on BetOnline. Just take that for what it's worth.
Man, Thanksgiving gift, give me some better books because I do not have those on mine. I think that most likely outcome is probably, if you're betting Agapova, it's probably a submission. I don't see her.
Agapova ITD plus 425 right now, too. Wow.
I'm telling you, if she wins her last fight.
Blessing. Yeah,
if she finishes that last fight. Exactly. All right.
Wow.
Let's move right along, though. That was an interesting one. Make sure you check out our Twitters because we're gonna have some thoughts about that tomorrow. All right, this one's interesting. I know we're gonna have a good conversation on this one. Tim Elliott, 17-11-1 versus Matheus Nicolau, 16-2-1. And I love me some Tim Elliott. This man will fight for your money. He's a dog, and I love to be betting on him. I absolutely hammered him his last time out. I do not know why he was the price tag he was. But now he's definitely taking a step up. I mean, Matheus Nicolau, very, very dangerous. Definitely a step up from Jordan Espinoza, to which point that Elliott did show very good respect to. And the big way that I look at Tim Elliott is he loses to the best of the best. I mean, Demetrius Johnson, Davison Figueiredo, Askar Askarov, Brandon Royval. He loses to the top of the division. And everyone was saying how he was such a poor fighter last time out. And I mean, Jordan Espinosa is not the top of the division. And we'll give him that right now. And this is a perfect matchup to see where he actually stands. Because Nicolau is actually a really, really good fighter who hasn't really had the opportunities that other people have. So, with that being said, another big way that Tim Elliott loses fights is he gets choked out all the time. And Matheus Nicolau is a very, let's say, potent finisher. I mean, he's a great ground game, and we know that. So, with all that being said, with all my love for Tim Elliott, I have no action on it yet because I do think that Nicolau is probably the right side here. But the fan in me really wants to lay some Elliott action. What are your thoughts on this one?
Okay, so this is the fight competing for my next most action on the card. I got in 2 units at minus 190 on Nicolau in this spot, and so I kind of missed the line move there. But I do think that he might end up justifying that price. And if the fight goes the way I expect, that I definitely think he's going to justify the price. So I also laid Nicolau to win inside the distance, 0.7 units at plus 310. I laid 0.8 units under 2.5 rounds at plus 198, which I thought was a really interesting price. Kind of surprised me just a bit. I know that these guys are flyweights, but Nicolau doesn't have the world's greatest chin. Elliott's been choked out. I think he's been finished more often than he's not been finished in his losses. So, he gets finished with some regularity. I also had Nicolau to win by sub in round 1. That's what I was forgetting. 0.75 units at plus 1,300. I just think that that's a little mispriced. We know for sure Tim Elliott's going to come forward and he's going to recklessly attempt grappling at all costs. He's basically like a wrestling first fighter most of the time. And, Matheus Nicolau, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, been one for a while, pretty adept on the ground, has some submissions in MMA, but he hasn't really been getting them in the UFC. He's gotten great takedowns. He's gotten significant grappling control time from the top position, including in his last bout against Manel Kape. And he was able to land some pretty effective ground and pound in that fight as well. So, I don't think that just because Tim Elliott is the one who decides to wrestle, that he's necessarily going to be the one getting top position. I think Matheus Nicolau is very tricky. And, I think that if Nicolau gets taken down, I like his ability to work from his back, to threaten, to work back to his feet. And he's the younger, fresher guy in this matchup. I think that he's on an upswing. I think that he's always been a credible UFC fighter. I think he's 4-1 now in the organization, or 4-2 maybe. He lost to Dustin Ortiz. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but yeah, I remember the Ortiz loss was bad, but otherwise, he's looked pretty damn solid in the UFC. Beat the hell out of Louis Smolka, I think it was. Like he's just been, he's had a couple of good looks now, and he got cut from the organization because they tried to shut down the division, not because he was a bad fighter. So I think that he's got more long-term upside. I think he's got a pretty decent chance to catch a predictable Tim Elliott coming in with that head down just a little bit on one of those trip attempts, put him in a guillotine, lock up an Anaconda or a Darce series, stuff one of those takedowns, work to a front headlock. And, sometimes when Tim can't get the grappling going, we see him start to shut down a little bit, run out of ideas. I like his corner. I think he moved to James Krause's gym, which I like that fit for him. But I also just think that, he's got a lot to deal with and probably just a better fighter on the other side of Matheus Nicolau. I like his game more. I think he's got more ways to win this fight. And I think he's probably going to find, a finish here. But I have 2 hedge plays on this fight, which is the under 2.5 rounds, which doesn't pick anybody. But it says that, Tim Elliott could potentially touch him on the chin. I have acknowledged Nicolau, if you could discredit any one part of his game, it would be that sometimes he gets a little wobbly when he gets touched. But I don't necessarily see Tim Elliott as the guy to do that. But but I also put 0.25 units down on the fight to end by submission because, let's say he does gas out, like some people are expecting him to do in this fight. I don't think his gas tank looked bad. I thought that for the most part, he outstruck Manel Cap down the stretch until some of the big exchanges right at the end. But, I thought overall, despite the fact that he was backing up for a lot of the fight, which can be pretty exhausting, he held together well from a cardio perspective. He also wrestled early in that fight and was able to fight normally in that second round. So I think that Mateus Nicolau, I think he's probably the better fighter here. I'm interested to see what happens to this price. It seems like minus 200 is kind of like that steady point. I don't think it's going to go much higher than there. But I do think he's going to win. That's why I got involved on the money line, and it's why I targeted these props. I think Nicolau is probably the side this weekend, but we're going to have to wait and see. And Tim Elliott always comes out like a junkyard dog. I just think he's going to be outskilled here. I think the club and sub is live too, because Nicolau, for all his other faults, he can touch people on the chin with some good accuracy. He's got good timing and good shot selection. He mixes things up well. He's actually got pretty damn hard calf kicks to either side as well. So, he's just a tough guy to deal with. And let's say he lands 3 or 4 of those calf kicks in the first round. Now Tim's wrestling doesn't look as good. Now Tim's entries are a little bit slower, and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt can take advantage of a slow wrestling entry. So let's see how it goes. But I'm going to be on Nicolau.
See, here's the thing. I will never bet against Tim Elliott. I think that he has great gas tank, great durability, very unorthodox striking, and I think he's a very good wrestling game too. The problem is he beats himself because his biggest path to victory is that wrestling, and his biggest downfall is that jiu-jitsu. He gets choked out all the time, so he really beats himself in his paths of victory here. The problem is he plays right into Nicolau's hands. I think the most likely outcome of this entire fight, and this is from a guy cheering for Tim Elliott, is Nicolau's probably going to choke him out, and that's probably the most likely outcome. The problem is, if that doesn't happen, I like Elliott's durability. I like his gas tank. I like his unorthodox striking. And, I mean, his last time out there against Millsy, he looked great. He looked very, very good his last time out. So this is a fight I'm just going to sit back and enjoy. No play for me yet. I'm cheering for Tim Elliott always. I might have a few Hail Marys with Tim Elliott in them because I think that he's a guy who's going to fight for your money. And I love the guys like that. They're going to go out there. They're going to perform. So love him this week here as term as a guy, but not as a guy I'm going to be betting on. So I think Nicolau probably wins this fight. However, I'm cheering for Tim Elliott. So sorry about that, but I hope you do cash your bets there, my friend. All right, moving right along to the co-main event of the evening. Very, very short card. Very questionable co and main event this weekend as well. But we have Randy Brown 13-4 against Jared Gooden 18-6. And it is just wild that Jared Gooden has a co-main event. Not only did he miss weight today, which was not very good, didn't miss it by just a pound either. He missed it by 3 pounds. But this man is 1-2 in the UFC, and he is a co-main event spot. Have we ever had that before? I don't know. But Jared Gooden goes out there last time, starches Stoltze. Then you have a guy in Randy Brown who always has entertaining fights, so I get from an entertainment standpoint why it is there. And just competition-wise, it's just tough to have as a co-main event. Anyways, Randy Brown looked really good today. I think he has all the tools in this fight. I'm going to keep it simple. I think that Randy Brown probably wins this fight. More skills, more height advantage. I think he's more technical. We just have seen him struggle when he gets hit as hard as he has, and Gooden does hit pretty hard, and he has showed he did look improved from the tiny sample we had from him last time. So I'm not rushing the window to bet Randy Brown, but I do think he wins this fight. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, man, I would tend to agree with a lot of your sentiments there. I think that Gooden, I think I bet on him in the Abu Bakr fight, and then I was so disheartened by that performance, and I didn't think he was going to get taken down very much, but he just got tuned up on the feet, kind of a lot of people have credited that game plan. I would detriment that game plan. It's like he gave himself no chance to win that fight by holding his hands down at his sides the whole time and just getting jabbed up. He was more worried about defending the takedown than landing the punches. And I do think that that's kind of what clicked for him in the Moto fight, where he's like, no, I can't just come out here with my hands at my side and try to defend takedowns. I have to come out here punching. But I think he's going against somebody that can match his size in terms of length and reach and frame. I don't think Randy Brown's as powerful or as big, in terms of his stature, which is a little bit scary. I do think that if Jared gets a hold of him, in the clinch, it could wear on Randy a little bit because Jared's a big, strong, muscle-bound dude. But I also think that overall, the frame advantages combined with the skill advantages are probably going to be enough for Randy to keep him at distance, to land his own jab, to pick him apart with the kicks, to be active, moving, mobile on his feet. Jared Gooden sometimes gets stuck in the mud and a little bit stationary when he's striking. Sometimes he wings his chin a little bit up in the air. But I also think that Gooden can crack, and he's confident in his power. He will come forward aggressively throwing punches. It just hasn't necessarily translated at this level. Nicholas Moda is kind of an unproven guy. Like, we kind of need to see more data from him to know what to make of that. And on the other side, the Alan Jouban loss didn't age great because Alan retired shortly thereafter. Although, I mean, I guess that's a positive note in this direction. Alan was like, F this. I don't need this shit anymore after the Jared Gooden fight. But, then Abu Bakr just tunes him up like an old guitar. So I don't know what to make of him, honestly, Jared Gooden. I feel like he's probably a little bit on the lower end of the division. I feel like Randy Brown's more likely to surge in this division. And so, I think Randy Brown by sub at plus 420 was the only thing I had a little interest in. I put down a quarter unit. I don't think Jared Gooden's ever been subbed, but I think the club and sub is live here. He has been dinked on the chin before. Randy's got those long, straight punches from outside. And, I also think that if Randy Brown is shooting, shot takedowns, he's probably not going to have much success. But if he just tries to go for a standing back body lock, I think that that's very live for him to get that position and potentially take the back and finish. That one-arm choke was pretty damn good technique. I think Randy Brown stays in jiu-jitsu class. So, not to take anything away from Jared Gooden, I think he's a fine fighter. But I think that if Randy Brown is able to get takedowns, he'll probably be able to secure a little bit of control and potentially find a finish. So that's why I think I went with a quarter unit on Randy Brown to win by sub at plus 420. Other than that, I didn't touch it. I think Randy Brown could win inside the distance, but I don't like it at the price. It's like plus 140 or something. I do think Jared Gooden's a pretty tough guy. I think it's less likely that Randy Brown just knocks him out cold. But, we'll see. We'll see. I also, I'm curious, why did Jared miss weight for the fight? That could mean a lot of different things. So, I'm glad I don't have a bigger investment in this. I get pissed when I do and somebody misses effing weight. So let's see how it goes. But I don't have much on this fight. I just think that Randy's probably more skilled in every position.
See, I have no action on it yet. I'm really tempted to bet Brown. It's just we've seen him struggle when he gets hit as much as he has. We do know that Gooden packs a punch, so it's tough for me to say. If anything, I'll probably end up playing a bit of Brown, maybe probably with Godinez, like I wanted to, a half unit to win a half unit. I mean, just in case I'm hungry for some action tomorrow. But it's not a spot that I'm overly confident on, so I don't want to waste too much time on it. Punt play on DraftKings, Gooden, because I do think that his best chance to victory is crowding Brown and landing a nice, powerful shot, which will score well for you. But it's not something I'm overly confident in. That weight miss does scare me a bit. Honestly, I'm really, really tempted to bet on that alone, but I've told myself to not do that. So no action yet, but I am edging Brown here. Hopefully he gets it done. That's all I'm going to say. All right.
I think Gooden by KO or TKO, just on the last aside. If you're going to play Jared Gooden by KO or TKO seems best to bet. Me like the best value play on him. And the price wasn't outrageous. Gooden by KO or TKO is plus 420 as well, down from plus 460 on FanDuel. So
I debated the fight doesn't go if I got anywhere underneath like minus 130, but it's just too steep for me now just because I know Gooden's pretty tough, and I don't want to see a slower decision. So, anyways, moving on to the main
You don't
event
want
of the
another
evening.
Johnny Walker.
Nope, no, none of that. Oh, don't remind me, man. That was painful. All right, moving right along to the main event: Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez. Very binary fight, striker versus grappler. And let me just say, I hate Mackenzie Dern. Not from a personal side. I can't get her fights right. She's the one fighter who I told myself I wouldn't bet on because I try to counter her out all the time. I mean, I put down a half unit on Hannah Cyphers against her, if that's telling you anything, which probably was not my best. Well, obviously not my best bet at all. Bet Nina Nunes against her, which backfired completely. That kind of showed me that Dern was kind of legit, though. And I also bet Jandaroba against her. So I've had a tough time with Mackenzie Dern. Tough time. But she's facing someone in Marina Rodriguez, who I don't like either. Marina Rodriguez, I mean, I bet Esparza against her, cash. Bet Rebos against her, lost on that one. And then I put like a half unit on Waterson by decision, just in case she was able to take her down. And that didn't end up very well either. But these are two fighters that I try to fade. Now, which one am I going to fade? Well, I'm going to tell you right now which one I'm going to fade is I'm going to fade them both. My 2-unit parlay ends here. I have the fight not going to decision as my second leg. So I have the under 2.5 in the Romanov-Vandera fight, and the fight doesn't go to decision as my other leg of the parlay. I see this very simple. Huge advantage on the feet for Rodriguez. I think that she's got the range, got the skill, she's got the technical abilities. But on the ground, it is a mismatch and a half. I mean, we've seen her control on the ground, and she has not faced anyone with the BJJ ability of Dern. Dern is able to snap something up. It can be done in a heartbeat. Problem is, I can't get Dern right, so I'm not going to bet on that. I'm really tempted to betting on Dern inside the distance. I think that's her biggest path to victory. But I can't get her right to save my life, so I'm just going to stick with the under. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'll just recap a couple bets that I've had on Mackenzie Dern. 1 unit on her at minus 162 against Verna. 2.5 units on her at minus 160 against Randa Marcos, which, by the way, was free money. The interesting thing about this fight is that Marina Rodriguez is really talented on the feet. You know,
on the feet.
Yeah, no, and I agree with your sentiments because what I've seen from her is that in matchups with other strikers, she does very well. And in the Amanda Hebos fight, you know, Amanda kind of made a mistake. You know, she decided in that second round, I'm not going to aggressively pursue the takedowns. I'm going to exchange a little bit and then work my way in. And, you know, she paid the ultimate price for standing at range with Marina. But allow me to draw a distinction. You know, I think the difference is Amanda Hebos doesn't have a great chin, you know, and I like Amanda Hebos. That cost me a lot of money, by the way. But, you know, I think that Amanda Hebos, when I retrospectively looked at that bet, I said, what went wrong here? And I went back and I rewatched her regional tape, and, you know, she got knocked out in almost the identical fashion by Polyana Viana. So, you know, I think that there's a little bit of, you know, narrative making now going on around the Marina Rodriguez side. In that she's like the world's most devastating puncher. You know, I believe she has a 0.6% knockdown rate, which is not bad for women's MMA, but I actually think that that's lower than Mackenzie Dern. I have to double check because I do not want to speak out of turn here. Marina Rodriguez knockdown rate is 0.6. Mackenzie Dern knockdown rate is 0.7. So,
wow.
You know, that, and, you know, granted, that's like literally not a statistically significant difference between those two. But that's the point. It's like their power metrics are very similar. What you see is that Marina Rodriguez will land and attempt more volume, will have better shot selection, will have cleaner punching and kicking mechanics. Those are like our expectations for the striking. But I think everybody believing that this is like a lock that Mackenzie gets knocked out, I don't necessarily buy that in this spot because Mackenzie's historically been pretty durable, you know, and she's taken a busting up of the face at the hands of Amanda Hebos, frankly. But that was on speed, that was on technique, and that was on the fact that, you know, Mackenzie couldn't press her number one advantage, which is her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Amanda Hebos, for her chin faults on the feet, has very credible Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so she was able to nullify Mackenzie's offensive wrestling in that spot and keep herself safe. I don't have any evidence that Marina is going to be able to do that here. I see that her takedown defense is improving, but I also have seen that, everybody who's tried to really proactively wrestle her has gotten her down most of her fights, and
pretty easily.
And man, the Cynthia Calvillo 10-8 comes to mind as being like a massive red flag. If Cynthia Calvillo gets a 10-8, Mackenzie Dern takes a limb home with her. And I don't know that people necessarily rate how good Mackenzie is on the ground. Now the betting line's starting to reflect it, but she opened to win this fight by submission at plus 150, I believe, or even higher maybe. I got in at the plus 150 number, and that's long since gone. I believe market wide. I'm going to check best fight odds here so I don't speak out of turn. But we've got Mackenzie Dern to win by submission at plus 100, best available market price. And that is a lot more reasonable in my mind, because if Mackenzie Dern gets this fight to the ground and there's a minute left on the clock, I think that the fight is over more often than it's not. I think that if Mackenzie Dern gets the fight to the ground and there's 2 minutes on the clock, the fight is over 80% of the time. I might be speaking out of turn. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe we'll see some improvements from Marina Rodriguez. But let me tell you something, folks. It's hard for somebody who's, I believe her first professional fight was in 2015. Marina Rodriguez, Mackenzie Dern's only 1 year behind her in terms of her professional fighting when they got started. So Marina obviously has the striking background. Mackenzie has the grappling background, and she has been at the highest level of competition. She can attack from guard. She can attack from standing. She can attack from the ground. She can, get on top position using ugly wrestling. She can get on top position using cleaner wrestling. She can get on top using sweeps and throws and trips. I'm not saying that she's going to be this, clinic takedown artist, but it doesn't take her being a clinic takedown artist. It takes her getting one spastic takedown, one slip from Marina as she backs up, one awkward land where Marina gets tied up and now she's on top. It doesn't matter. Mackenzie is going to be very dangerous from every one of those positions. And I believe that, if this fight plays out how I think it will, Mackenzie's going to finish her in the very first round. So I think that Mackenzie is going to barn rush her. I think she's going to storm out the gates and try and take her down. And I think that Marina, unless she times a perfect counter on her way in, is going to have to deal with that pressure. And so far, we haven't seen evidence that she can deal with that pressure. And this is the best grappler she's ever faced by a country mile. And that's what people, I think are systemically underrating, is that Mackenzie Dern isn't going to be like Cynthia Calvillo on your back. She's going to be like two Cynthia Calvillos on your back. It's like, this is just a different level of ground operation. She can move from one move to another. She can put you in 3 moves at the same time. She's very dexterous. And when she commits to something, it's not like she's going to be asking you to tap. She's going to break your arm. She's going to break your leg. Like, she has perfect braking mechanics on a lot of her moves. It's like, this isn't going to be a question of, hey, am I being polite today? It's like, tap or crack, tap or nap. Mackenzie is that good at jiu-jitsu. So, I said that Brian Ortega was live to win the fight by sub, but that ultimately I favored Volkanovski to win by decision. This time I'm saying I favor Mackenzie Dern to win the fight by submission. I think it's in the first 2 rounds. I think Mackenzie, if she gets one takedown, the fight could be over. I think that with 25 minutes on the clock to work, it's going to be harder and harder as the fight goes on. But Mackenzie's shown to be a dog. She's shown to stay in somebody's face and keep coming forward. And if Marina starts to slow down at all, which, by the way, she didn't in her last 5-round fight, but that was at 125 pounds, cutting back down to 115 here. Let's see how she holds up. Targeted. So I just think that this is a much more interesting and compelling fight. From a money line perspective, I'm not touching Dern at the minus 200 tag, but I do have, 1 unit on Mackenzie Dern to win by sub at plus 150, half a unit on Mackenzie Dern to win in round 1 at plus 500, which I think best market is plus 370 now. See ya. And I also bet on Mackenzie Dern to win inside the distance, 0.25 units at plus 115. So, I got in a couple of early bets there. My favorite DGen parlay that I threw together very early on was Dern sub plus 150, Mateus Nicolau, Alexander Romanov, and that came out to about plus 360. So,
Wow.
yeah, I didn't hate that look.
All right. Well, I agree with everything you said. And if you guys, like I said 1,000 times, if you guys watch the DFS video I made, my partner Kira pretty much just said, only takes one. That's all it takes. You mentioned it and you said it perfectly. Rodriguez has never faced someone with the ground credentials that Dern has. Dern is lethal, and my bets have noticed that firsthand. The only reason I'm not hammering Dern right now, because first of all, everything is on her side. I love my grapplers. I love my wrestlers. Those are the guys I lead towards in the first place. And the only reason I haven't placed a 3-unit bet on Dern is because she's burned me in the past. So I got to look past that. I will have a bet on Dern coming tomorrow. I've instead opted for the fight doesn't go to decision because I'm a pussy. But honestly,
dude, I think fight doesn't go to decision if you're on the Dern side also makes a lot of sense. I don't think she's going to win the decision. I think that's the thing that people are missing. Marina Rodriguez by decision is plus 500 right now on FanDuel. I think that is the best way to bet on her.
That's the best hedge. Yep.
I'm saying if you're on the Marina side, I think everybody's getting a little out over their skis on the fact that she's going to knock out Dern. Unless Dern hits a cardio wall, which is possible, especially if she's trying to grapple early and often. But if she hits a cardio wall, that would be the only way that I see her getting just starched. Otherwise, it would take a really well-timed counter, knee, uppercut, and I'd put that in the 10% ballpark. As far as I'm concerned.
Well, here's how I'm going to end it off is because Dern wins this fight on the ground anytime she wants it, in my opinion. But the way we make money this weekend is by putting together a DraftKings lineup. Romanov, Dern, Rosa. Fill in the rest however you want. Those are the 3 core plays of the week. And you guys would know that if you watch my DFS videos. So that's exactly what I'm rolling with.
Can I share with the people the very first ever DFS lineup that I sent
to you? Go
for
it, my friend.
I didn't end up getting to play this because we lost a participant. But, when I sent it over to you, I had Duran Wynn, Mackenzie Dern, Mateus Nicolau, Maria Agapova, Randy Brown, and Alexander Romanov with 200 ducats to spare. So now my boy Duran Wynn is out of there as my cheap play. I got to revisit the board and see what I can come up with.
Well, I'll throw a competition. I'll invite you. We can do a head-to-head tomorrow. We can see what you put together. But I think that the way you got to target this is I'm not a fan of a lot of the dogs. Ontiveros, Vandera, even Gooden, not really the biggest fans of them. So it's tough to find value because everyone's in the middle. There's only 9 fights. Where are you going to find these value plays? So I think that you have to look at the people like the Gaudinas who have that short notice replacement who should theoretically be priced higher. Those people like Rosa, who I think should be the favorite in the spot, who aren't. And then the people like Dern, who are $8,200, yet they're minus 200 favorites now. So I think Dern wins this fight. I think
late action is going to come back on Marina, though. I will say I don't think Dern's going to close minus 200. I'd be surprised.
No, I'm waiting on it because I like to bet with the mentality that if people like wiki cappers, if people who know nothing about my fights, like a few of my roommates that I live with, just go in there and want to have action on the fight.
You should ask them. Dude. I used to ask one of my friends, and it would literally be to a T the opposite of what he picked every time.
Yeah, 100%. It's because people look at records and numbers over a lot of other important things. And if you look at someone like Marina Rodriguez, who's going to have the reach advantage, the height advantage, who has more knockouts, it looks like she's going to win the fight on paper. So I think that I'm waiting on that. I think that Dern is going to finish this fight and finish it early. And that's all I'm going to say. That is going to end it right there. I appreciate everyone for tuning into the Plays and Fades podcast. Before I get her going, let them know where to find you and what are you betting on this weekend?
You got it, buddy. I'd be happy to run through it. So number one, everybody can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, and on YouTube at LiamPicksFights. I did a full card breakdown with a couple sharp guys. You'll always see Gordo if you check into my channel. He is there frequently as well, breaking down these Contender Series events. We have been absolutely on fire. 7 for 7 on these Contender Series streams, making money, making profitable bets, hoping to keep that ball rolling. When the UFC gives us lemons, we make lemonade on Dana White's Contender Series, if you know what I'm saying. But I think that I had a great time doing the show today. Happy to run through my action real quick. I'm on Mateus Nicolau. I'm on Charles Rosa for 0.75 units. It was 2 units on Nicolau. I'm on Steve Garcia for 3.5. And I'm on Dern to win by submission at plus 150 for a unit. I'm on Dern to win in round 1 for a half unit at plus 500. I'm on Dern to win inside the distance for a quarter unit at plus 115. I'm on Nicolau to win inside the distance for 0.7 units. I'm on the under 2.5 for Elliot Nicolau, 0.8 units at plus 198. I'm on Nicolau to win by sub in round 1 at plus 1,300. I'm on Nicolau to win in round 1 at plus 800. I'm on the fight to end by sub for a quarter unit at plus 320. I am on Garcia to win by KO for a unit at minus 115. Garcia inside the distance, 1 unit at minus 135. Gutierrez by KO or TKO, 0.3 units at plus 380. Gutierrez round 3, 0.2 units at plus 1,400. And Brown by submission, 0.24 units at plus 420. That's my slate. I am also untracked on Godinez, 2.5 units at minus 250. I am untracked on 0.2 units across Agapova, 1 Agapova sub at plus 1,000 and plus 2,100. Let's get this
mic
money.
Drop. Well, if you guys tuned in to Liam's show on Tuesday, you'll know I have a lot of money to free roll in this weekend. I got every single one of those right now. I'll pat myself on the back for that one, but I have a very light slate this weekend so far. 2 units, the big one this weekend, which isn't even that big. It's just I don't have very confident plays, but fight under 4.5 rounds for the main event, Dern Rodriguez, and fight under 2.5 rounds for Romanov and Dera. 2 units, minus 105. Boom, done, easy. We have plus 116, a unit on Gutierrez straight after Mike Malott 1. We are going to have a unit on Charles Rosa. Still waiting on line movement on that one, though. We have a 0.3 units on Vendera inside the distance at plus 1,000. I might withdraw that and turn that into a round 3. Because how much will that get me, actually? Just because I think that the like I said, I'm the only way Vendera wins this fight is if Romanov gasses out and that we're able to take advantage of that. So let me look at this. Best fight odds, brother.
I was just trying to get there for you, my man. Here we go. Vandera to win in round 3, you said?
Yeah.
Plus 3,400 on freaking FanDuel. Wow. Might have to take a poke.
So I think I'll change my inside the distance to that because I can still cash out on my book, luckily. And then I'm looking to place something on. I'm going to add a Minnesota Vikings. I added this when we were talking. Minnesota Vikings and Garcia to win inside the distance as a play. And then I'm still waiting. I want to play some Dern. I want to play some Godinez, and I might want to play some Brown. But there are some fights this weekend that I'm completely staying off of. I have my leans, but I don't want anything out of it. I'm cheering for Tim Elliott, but no action on that one. I could be tempted to take some Agapova, but no. Main plays are going to be Charles Rosa. The fight doesn't go to decision in both the Rodriguez and Romanov fight, and Steve Garcia inside the distance. So that is going to do it for us on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Make sure you're checking out the DraftKings video. Yes, my friend?
I got one last thing on the way out. Last week, I think I rattled off a 9-leg parlay for you guys.
Yes,
it missed by 1 leg. Unfortunately, we hit the one on Contender Series. We missed the one last week on the UFC. But we went even bigger this time in terms of the 9-legger that I threw together. We're at plus 42,511. Threw this together on FanDuel. Here's what I've got. I got under 2.5 on Taveros Garcia. I got Lupita Godinez. I got fight to start round 3, Damon Jackson and Charles Rosa. I got Romanov inside the distance. Gutierrez inside the distance. No. Maria Agapova and Sabina Mazo does not go the distance. Mateus Nicolau, KO or submission. Randy Brown, KO or submission. And no, Mackenzie Dern and Marina Rodriguez won't go the distance. That's $5 to win $2+ grand. That's what I'm going with.
Well, I always post some Hail Marys. My Hail Marys will include a little bit of Dern's at a distance, a little bit of Rosa by decision, all that kind of stuff. You can find that out at Gordo Gambles on Twitter, or Gambles Gordo. I honestly forget how it is. Make sure you're also following the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. Follow them on Twitter as well. Check out our NFL video that should be dropping soon. I'll text Kiro to see when that is out, but I just dropped the UFC video, so check out my DFS plays there, and make sure to come back every single Friday, where I will be fortunate enough to most of the time be joined by Liam Picks Fights. I appreciate you for joining me. Check out his channel. Check us out on Tuesdays as well, where we do Contender Series, and let's make some money. Peace, everybody.